as most of you probably already know, I'm queer. And for those of you who couldn't tell, even with all of this going on, it's fine, don't worry about it. Neither could my parents. It's okay. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Trishna and I usually make content about books and reading and writing and stuff. But for the past few months, I've really been getting into video essays, and there are a bunch of things that I want to talk about which are important to me or interest me, and that kind of brings us to today's video. I have been identifying as queer for the past couple of years, but my journey of figuring out my sexuality began when I was in 7th grade, which is like 7 years ago, which is such a long time. But it kind of began like me figuring out my sexuality began then, and then me having a crisis about my gender happened 4 years ago during COVID, and so it's been a long journey. I currently identify as non-binary, and I'm not really sure about my sexual identity, my sexual orientation. I used to think I was bisexual, mainly because I really like the flag. I mean, look at it, it's so pretty. But over the past couple of years, I have not really been that inclined to even liking male and men. So I don't know. I do sometimes think about identifying as a lesbian, but I'm not sure about that either. So whatever. Right now, I identify as non-binary, and because I'm not really sure about my sexual orientation, I just go by queer, which is an umbrella term and can be used to identify with any part of the LGBTQ plus spectrum. So that I just really like that I don't have to hang on to this specific label, and queer just lets me explore without me having to identify myself and label myself, which I really enjoy. And I go by they she pronouns, so it would be really nice if you guys could use those pronouns for me. And yeah, so today we are going to dive into something that's very important to me, which is queer media. We are going to be talking about movies, TV shows, books, and other medias that feature LGBTQ plus characters and their stories. And we are going to talk about why does it matter and why it's so important that we have that kind of visibility and representation in the media, especially right now. So let's break it down. Okay, by the way, I usually don't have scripts, but I really wanted to write something down and then go with it, or else I just start talking about things that are not even related. So I did make a script, so I will be looking down sometimes, so just go with it. It's fine. Okay, so first off, let's talk about what we mean by queer media. It's not just rainbows and pride flags slapped onto characters. That is not a good representation, and that's not what I'll be talking about. I want to talk about authentic stories that represent the diverse experiences of queer people. This could be anything from a rom-com with a gay couple, or a sci-fi show with a non-binary lead, or a young adult novel exploring a teen's journey of self-discovery and identity. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but why make a big deal out of this? Well, that's exactly what we are exploring today. We'll look at how queer media impacts not just the LGBTQ plus community, but society as a whole. We are talking representation, education, challenging norms, and even influencing the entertainment industry as a whole. Throughout this video, we'll dive into some key questions, like how does seeing yourself represented in media affect your sense of self? Can a TV show or a movie actually change how people think about the LGBTQ plus issues? What's the difference between good representation and, well, not so good representation? And how has queer media evolved over the years, and where is it headed? We'll also look at some game-changing shows, movies, and books that have made waves in the world of queer media, and why queer stories aren't just important but essential at a time like this. Firstly, we have the power of representation. Imagine growing up and never seeing anyone like you in the media you consume. For example, the first time I saw a queer character in any kind of media was in Percy Jackson, the book, one of the books called House of Hades, which is part of the Heroes of Olympus series, where one of these characters comes out as gay. And then that was back in sixth grade. So I was 12 years old when I was introduced to the first queer character. And after that, I read a couple of books like Magnus Chase, which is another book series written by Rick Riordan, where we have two characters. We have Magnus Chase, who is pansexual, and we have Alex Piero, who is gender fluid. And these kinds of representation are what pushed me and encouraged me to actually think about my own sexual identity, because up until that point I did not really think about it, did not know anything about sexual orientation and identity for me to really think about what that means. And so these characters really helped me understand what they mean. And even then it was very scarce, because up and then again until like 8th 9th grade I didn't really come across many queer characters in any shows or movies. When you don't have such characters to look up to or such characters to really interact with, it kind of just makes you feel lonely, and it feels like you're invisible in this world where everything seems possible, in like especially fantasy world where everything is possible, but having a queer character, oh my god, no. And that's where the power of representation comes in. When queer individuals see themselves represented in media, it's like this amazing movement where they have finally figured something out, and suddenly there's this validation that okay, you exist, that your experiences matter, and that you're not alone. And this representation has profound impact on mental health and self-esteem. Studies have shown that positive media representation can reduce feelings of isolation, increase self-acceptance among LGBTQ plus individuals. And it's not just about seeing a character with the same label as you. It's about seeing these complex, multidimensional queer characters living full lives, facing challenges and experiencing joy, which you did not think was possible because you never had that kind of representation before. To explore this further, let's look at the TV show Heartstopper. When it hit the screens, it wasn't just another teen drama. For many young queer individuals, it was the first time they saw queer teens navigating high school, first crushes, and friendships in a way that felt authentic and hopeful. It wasn't about tragedy or trauma, it was about the everyday experiences of queer youth, portrayed with warmth and understanding. Also, I have seen so many clips of people coming out to their own parents using the clip from Heartstopper when Nick comes out to his mom. And this is just such an emotional and warm scene, because it makes you like, when Olivia Colman hugs Nick, it doesn't just show that she's accepting him, it kind of feels like she's hugging you and like accepting you. And that's just such important, like these kinds of scenes are so important because it shows young queer people that okay, like this is possible, that you can live like this, and you know, maybe your parents will accept you like this. And that scene actually also helped me feel empowered to come out to my parents and feel more like okay, even if anything happens, it can't be that bad. I mean, sure, it could be, but like seeing that scene kind of like motivated me to come out, and it wasn't that bad, so all's good. And seeing such a diverse group of friends, in the sense that all of them have such different queer identities and they are such different characters, and it was so important to see not just one, not just two, but like a bunch. I think there are like 7 to 8 queer people in the show, and it's completely focused on their lives, which is so incredible to see, and I genuinely love that. And especially as someone who is 16, 17 with not really those many queer friends, that show really helped me, and I'm pretty sure it helped so many other teenagers out there. But representation shouldn't just be for the youth, and it's not just important for teenagers to see themselves on screen. LGBTQ plus adults who have grown up with little to no positive representation can find it healing and affirming to see these kinds of queer characters thriving in the media. It's never too late to see yourself reflected and feel that sense of belonging. Another example I want to give here is Last of Us, which is a video game that has been turned into a TV show, which came out last year or last to last year. I'm not sure. The first season. No, I think last year January-ish, and it's basically set in this post-apocalyptic world, and there are zombies and whatever. But one of the episodes is focused on this gay couple, and it's the best episode in the series, according to me. There are these two people, Frank and Bill, and they run into each other like a few years into this post apocalyptic world where everything is just dead mostly. And up until Bill met Frank, he didn't really identify as gay, at least that's what I got. And they meet and they spend all this time together because they are hiding away together, and they fall in love, and it's just the sweetest, cutest episode. It's also very heart-wrenching and I cried so much at the end of it, but it was so like so nice to see that kind of older gay men falling in love. Like both of them are easily in their late 40s, and I've seen a bunch of like Reddit comments and articles about this episode and how so many queer adults, especially like in their 50s 60s, felt so nice seeing these people who were able to find that kind of love even in like a post-apocalyptic world. And characters and stories like that just make this all seem so much better, and it shows you how much love can matter. And when you're not letting two people love each other and spend time with each other just because of what they identify as, it can take away such a huge part of life and take away such a meaningful part of life. And I don't know, that episode was just so meaningful and important to me. And yeah, adults should have that kind of representation as well. As much as teens, having it matters and makes them feel like nothing is impossible and that they can have fulfilling lives. It's important that adults, especially who never had this kind of representation growing up, have a sense of what it means to have had this and feel happy about where the world is headed and what future generations can do when they couldn't. And yeah, that's just incredible. Moving on, good representation can also help queer individuals envision possibilities for their own lives. As I said, like just seeing these queer characters in various professions, relationships, and life stages can expand what feels achievable and what seems possible in your own life. Representation also, as I was saying, plays a crucial role in family acceptance. When parents or family members of queer individuals see positive portrayals in media, it can help them better understand and support their loved ones. It can dispel myths, showcase the normalcy of queer lives, and foster a sense of empathy and understanding. Again, pulling an example from my own life, when I was still unsure about whether I wanted to come out to my parents, and if I wanted to, then how did I want to do it. My family, like I wasn't watching it at the time, but my parents were watching the show called Four More Shots Please, which is a Hindi show with kind of English in it, but it's a primarily Hindi show. And seeing that there's one queer character in it, and seeing that kind of representation was incredible, in especially in India, where it was very recently that we started getting queer characters in movies and TV shows. So it was incredible. But seeing my parents watch it without really having an issue with the character also kind of made me be like, okay, so maybe if they don't have a problem with the character, they won't have a problem with me, which is to an extent true. But that was a good portrayal of lesbian, and seeing my parents be okay with that was kind of nice. And such representation can help, as I was saying, queer individuals' family also empathize with them and educate them, which I'll be coming back to later. But for now, yeah. Now, I've been talking about how good representation is, but there's also a problem that can happen within all of this. When token and stereotypical characters are portrayed, these characters can do more harm than good in the media. So, our goal should be authentic, nuanced representation that showcases diversity within the LGBTQ plus community instead of all characters being the same, all queer characters in media being the same kind of copy paste, which just are filled with stereotypes and have no nuance, no real personality other than that they are queer. And as representation improves, we are seeing a shift from simply having queer characters exist to having them lead complex, interesting lives where the queerness is just a small aspect of who they are. This normalization is so powerful, and it shows that queer individuals aren't defined solely by their identity but have rich, varied experiences just like any other person in society. In essence, representation in media isn't just about entertainment, it can be a lifeline. It tells queer individuals that they have a place in the world, that their stories matter, and that they deserve to be seen and heard. Every time a queer person sees themselves authentically represented, it's an affirmation of their worth and existence, and that is the power of representation. Next up, we have education and cultural impact. Queer media isn't just a mirror for queer individuals, but it can also act as a window for everybody else. It can provide like this crash course in queer terminology and queer experiences, but it's way more engaging than any textbook. And because a lot of people actually watch this kind of entertainment, it's more it's easier for them to learn from such entertainment instead of like asking them to look it up on Google or read it from some article. And when done right, this kind of queer media challenges stereotypes and preconceptions and gives viewers a front row seat to the diverse experiences of LGBTQ plus individuals. Take Queer Eye, for example. When it hit Netflix, it wasn't just a makeover show. It was a cultural phenomenon. Suddenly, five gay men were in living rooms across the world, not as caricatures, but as real people with skills, emotions, and their own struggles. It humanized gay men for many viewers who might never have had meaningful interactions with LGBTQ plus individuals in their daily life. And that's why this kind of representation does heavy lifting in terms of education. It tackles misconceptions head on, showing that LGBTQ plus people are as diverse and complex as any other group. It also normalizes queer experiences, making them part of everyday conversations. Like, suppose you're discussing a show with one of your friends and you mention this queer couple that was in the show. Your friend might not be that exposed to queer media, but even having like this little, oh, I saw this gay couple in this show, oh, I saw this non binary character in this movie, even that little bit of traction really pushes people to actually understand and explore what that might mean, which is what does not happen because a lot of the hate we see online from homophobic people comes from their lack of understanding the queer experiences and their lack of knowledge on the subject. And this kind of queer entertainment really educates them into being better human beings and being more empathetic towards other people and their experiences. But this impact goes beyond just educating people about queer identities. Queer media often delves into intersectional issues, addressing race, class, disability, and other aspects of identity alongside sexuality and gender. This broadens viewers' understanding of social issues as a whole. You might have probably heard the saying that no one's liberated until everybody is liberated, and that kind of applies here as well. If you don't represent all kinds of minorities and different sections of society, no one will really be benefiting from this kind of media. This also reminds me of the TV show Young Royals. It's a very popular TV show, but if you don't know, it's a Swedish queer show that has garnered a lot of praise even from English speakers because the dubbing is just amazing. But it's a Swedish show about these two teenage boys in this boarding school who fall in love. But the best thing, according to me, about it is that it does not only focus on their relationship, it also talks a lot about other social issues. One of them being class disparity, because one of the boys in the relationship is a royal and he's very rich, obviously, and the other guy is not that well off. We also have discussions about race. We also have discussions about mental health and neurodivergent people. We have a lot of discussion about ADHD in the first two seasons, which is incredible. Like, I have never seen ADHD be talked about so openly on the screen. So it was amazing to see. And this kind of representation of other issues in a show that was primarily supposed to only talk about like this queer individuals is incredible, because it also educates these queer people and other viewers who are watching this queer show to other issues in society that affect every single person in society. Moving on, queer media can also be a safe way for allies to learn how to be supportive of their friends or just queer individuals in general. It can model positive interaction, showcase the importance of chosen family, and demonstrate the impact of acceptance versus rejection. As queer media becomes more mainstream, LGBTQ plus terminologies, issues, and perspectives become part of the broader cultural dialogue. This increased visibility and understanding can lead to real world changes in attitudes, policies, and social norms. In essence, queer media serves as a powerful tool for social change, fostering empathy, understanding, and acceptance, one story at a time. Lastly, historical context and progress. Back in the day, like decades ago or even centuries, queer content was often hidden in subtext, with creators and actors forced to be incredibly subtle to avoid censorship or backlash. Or even when the creators were very outspoken about their queerness, it was still shunned away. Let's take Emily Dickinson or Oscar Wilde. They wanted to speak about their queerness, but it was never really popularized or never given that stage to become popular, and was always hidden until very recently, when these kinds of their works have finally started to resurface and actually be seen as these amazing queer representations. Coming to movies and TV shows, in early Hollywood, the Hays Code banned any depiction of sexual perversion, which effectively erased explicit queer representation from mainstream cinema for decades. And this led to the era of queer coding, where villains were often given stereotypical queer traits, a problematic trend that persisted for years. This kind of assigning queer traits to villains can primarily be seen in a lot of animated movies like Ursula, uh, Jafar from Aladdin, and who else do we have? Scar from Lion King. All of them have like these stereotyped queer traits, and that's, I think, one of the reasons such villainous characters have become kind of queer icons, because even when they weren't explicitly queer, just the way they acted and the way that their character was portrayed made those queer people feel seen when they didn't really have any other kind of representation. And while this is obviously harmful because you're showing antagonists and villains in this kind of like liking them with queer individuals, this kind of representation still kind of spoke to queer individuals, which led to these characters becoming queer icons, which is very iconic and just incredible. But the trend is what is problematic. But moving on, coming to like the 1990s, we saw a gradual increase in visibility with shows like Will and Grace bringing great characters to primetime TV. I would also just like to give a example of Friends, where Chandler's one of his parents is transgender and becomes a woman, and then I think is also in a lesbian relationship, and also obviously Ross's ex-wife is in a lesbian relationship. And the thing is, there is a lot of problematic things, like queer phobic things that are said in the show, but it's also corrected over the seasons, which I think is kind of nice. And obviously they didn't start off with thinking that Friends will become this huge television phenomena, but it did. And that's what matters, because even with the show having like a couple of background queer characters, it still became this huge show and was more it became mainstream media, and a lot of people did see these characters being portrayed on screen, which was really really important and really nice. But as I said, these were background characters, and these representations were often limited to these stereotypes or secondary roles. When Ellen DeGeneres, I don't know what her name is, came out in a sitcom in 1997, it was a very huge moment, but it did lead to the show's cancellation, which again shows how even the TV shows which did want to have this kind of queer representation probably couldn't have it because they were scared of cancellation or a drop in viewership. But let's fast forward to today, and the landscape now has changed dramatically. We have shows like Pose, which not only feature multiple trans characters of color but also employ trans actors and writers. We have Schitt's Creek, which gave us a pansexual character and a gay relationship that was treated with the same normalcy as any straight romance. And Schitt's Creek is one of my favorite queer shows. David is such a amazing character, and the scene where he comes out to Stevie using the whole wine metaphor.
I do drink red wine, but I also drink white wine. And I've been known to sample the occasional rosé. And a couple summers back, I tried a Merlot that used to be a Chardonnay, which got a bit complicated.
Okay, yeah, so you're just really open to all wines.
I like the wine and not the label. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It's till date one of my favorite scenes in any TV show ever. And in animation, shows like Steven Universe and She-Ra are exploring gender and sexuality in ways that are accessible to younger audiences, so that even since you are young, you don't feel that sense of isolation and being left out of conversations. Because I remember when I was like 11, 12, when this like kind of crushes kind of the concept used to start coming into these young girls' mind, and I was always like, but I don't have any crushes. And this kind of representation, if I'd had at that time, would have made me feel so much more secure and happy, because I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why don't I feel like these other girls in my class? And so this kind of representation really helps younger audiences also feel that sense of belonging. And as we have seen, each step forward has indeed been huge. From the first same-sex kiss on TV to the first transgender character in a major role, every milestone has pushed the boundaries of what's possible in mainstream media. And these advancements haven't just happened on screen, they've been accompanied by real world progress in queer rights and acceptance. And these rights, I feel like one of the main reasons that they have come to fruition is because of this representation in queer media. Because if queer media is there, it is educating people, it is pushing for it to become normal, and that normalcy is what gives right to a lot of rights that any human should have. But unfortunately, queer individuals lack that kind of human rights in a lot of countries. And this kind of representation in media is what pushes cishet people to support these kinds of LGBTQ plus rights. and make government officials understand why this is just normal and you should just give us rights. However, it is also important to note that progress hasn't been linear or universal. While representation has improved significantly in some areas, others still lag behind. Bisexual, transgender, non-binary characters, for instance, are still underrepresented compared to gay and lesbian characters. Even lesbian characters to an extent aren't. Like, gay characters is what is just considered queer representation, and whenever a show does want queer representation, the easiest way for them to do that is put a gay character in. But unfortunately, other gender and sexual orientations haven't had that same kind of traction. uh, Even lesbian characters, which is kind of the same as gay characters, but I don't see enough lesbian characters on screen in TV shows. One of my first like lesbian characters on TV was in Warrior Nun, which is so recent. Like, it was like 3 years ago. So we need more characters who are lesbian, because please. Also, I don't know why, I thought about this, and do you know, like, when you look up lesbian, you get a picture of Renee Rapp, and I just think that is incredible. Because when she came out as lesbian, there was so much backlash from the queer community, because she previously used to identify as bisexual, and so a lot of people were like, you're being biphobic, but they were just bitches. And I don't know if Rene Rapp paid someone to do this, but this is such an iconic um thing, because like, she's like, okay, you guys don't think I'm lesbian, I'm going to make my face the picture that shows up on your screen when you look it up, and that's just amazing to me. Anyways, coming back to what I was talking about, looking at this history reminds us of how far we have come, but also how recent many of these changes are. It underscores the importance of continuing to push for diverse, authentic representation across all media. Each new story that accurately portrays queer experiences builds on this legacy and contributes to a richer, more inclusive media landscape for everyone. Lastly, we have community building and youth impact that the queer media has. So this media serves as a powerful connector, especially for those who might feel isolated in their immediate surroundings. Suppose for me, until 8th grade, I did not know another queer person in real life. Technically, I did know them. I just didn't know they were also queer, because in 8th grade, my best friend and I came out to each other at the same time, which was so nice. But until that point, I felt so confused, because I couldn't really talk to anybody in person, and I didn't know anybody else in my immediate surroundings. And for a young queer person in a small town or in a conservative area such as India, seeing queer characters on screen or in books can be truly life changing. It's like finding a window to a world where they belong, even if that isn't like physically close. Again, I will bring back the Percy Jackson example, because those books that like I was reading in 6th grade helped me so much with me trying to understand myself, even though I'm not gay, I'm not gender fluid, technically I'm not sure, but even that little part of like queer identity in books helped me understand. And this again happened in 2020 when I picked up this book called I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver, and I was reading it, and that was my first book, or the first character I'd seen who was non-binary. And I read it and I was like, why is every thought that this character having something I have thought before? And that kind of led me into thinking about my gender identity and understanding myself. And such media is what also prompts you to explore yourself and understand yourself, and that is again something that is a very important aspect of why representation matters. And this representation does more than just show queer people existing. It creates a sense of shared experience and community. When viewers see characters navigating similar challenges, celebrating similar joys, or asking the same questions they have, it fosters a sense of belonging. It's a silent you're not alone, you have other people in this world message that can be incredibly comforting and affirming. Moreover, queer media often sparks online communities. Fans gather on social media platforms to discuss shows, dissect character arcs, and share their own experiences. These online spaces can become virtual meeting grounds for queer individuals who might find friends and other people who they can express themselves freely. And this is often for the first time, because unless you know queer person, it's very hard for you to talk about your experiences, because you're not sure if a straight person would just understand. And it's also nice to talk to a little older peers who you can get guidance from, and that does happen in a lot of online forums. And I think that's just incredible. Online friendships are such an important part of my life. I found some of my best friends online during the whole COVID pandemic, and I kind of met them. This wasn't a queer forum, this was a book forum for one of these books, but the book was queer, so works. And I found a lot of queer friends through that forum, which was just incredible, because at that time my best friend was still one of the only people I knew who was queer. So yeah, it's very important to talk to people, and if you're not finding those kinds of people in your surroundings, such communities can really help. And for a lot of people, these communities become a lifeline, a place to ask questions, seek advice, and find support that might not be available in their immediate surroundings. And this kind of, it feels like finding your tribe across digital spaces who are bonded to you by like these shared experiences and a common love for certain characters or stories, which is what happened in my queer forum, not mine, but like the queer forum I met a lot of people in. And this impact on youth can be so profound. Seeing positive queer representation can boost self esteem, provide role models, and help young people envision positive futures for themselves. It can give them the language to understand and express their own identities and the courage to come out when they are ready. In essence, queer media doesn't just entertain, it creates connections, fosters community, and provides crucial support for LGBTQ plus youth. It's a reminder that they're part of a larger, vibrant community, even if they can't see it in their day to day lives just yet. In conclusion, queer media plays a vital role in society, not just for the queer community, but for everyone. And it fosters a true sense of belonging, understanding, and acceptance through authentic representation. The future of queer media is very bright, according to me. We are witnessing a shift towards more diverse and inclusive representation, with characters who are not defined solely by their sexual orientation or gender identity, but are shown as these three-dimensional characters with nuanced and authentic stories. And this normalization is key to dismantling stereotypes and creating a more equitable society. As queer media continues to evolve, it will undoubtedly play a crucial role in shaping a future where everyone is seen, heard, and understood. So that was the end of today's video. I am very happy that I decided to make this video, because I was very scared at first, because I've never really spoken about anything on this channel other than books. And talking about such complex topics is very hard, because you need a proper understanding of them. And so I did research up some of these things and look up a lot of things, which I don't usually do. Like, I just talk normally, just yap city over here. But I actually spent time on this, which really made me feel nice, because usually I am literally not planning anything. I'm just talking on here, but somehow I'm still getting views, which is concerning. But I actually sat down and made a script and tried to follow that script, even if I did have to keep looking down, which I'm really sorry for. But this was a very different video for me, and I'm hoping that I stick with it and that I make more video essays in the future, because I really enjoy making them. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you liked it. And if you did, please do like this video. It helps me out so much. If you want to follow me on my Instagram, my bookstagram is called Trish the Bookish, and my personal account is called Tired Trish because I'm always tired. You can also follow me on my Goodreads and Storygraph if you want to look at the books I read and follow me on my reading journey. The links are in my description below. And if you want to see more videos like this, then please do subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next one. And I hope you enjoyed because I really did. And yeah, that's it for today. See you in the next one. Bye bye.